So Bernie Sanders released a statement here going after Netanyahu and talking about war with Iran, which, as you all know, now it's on like Donkey Kong, unfortunately. And he had quite a bit to say. Let's watch. I'll break it down for you. Overall, this is good. Bernie is standing up to the war. He already filed legislation to try to block the war. But here was his commentary on it. Let's watch.
In the year 2025, one might have hoped that the global community would be working together to address the existential threat of climate change, working to prevent future pandemics, working to address the massive levels of income and wealth inequality that exist, working to improve the standard of living of struggling people all over the world. But tragically, that is not where we are today. Quite the contrary. Instead of addressing the major crises that we face, the world is now looking at the terrible war in Ukraine, started by Putin, which has taken hundreds of thousands of lives over the last 3 years. We are looking at the horrific war in Gaza, where, as we speak, thousands of Palestinian children are facing starvation due to Israel's inhumane and illegal war policies. And now we face a dangerous and escalating war in Iran, which was begun in violation of international law by the extremist Netanyahu government. And the main point that I want to make today is that it is absolutely imperative that the United States not be dragged into this war. Let me say a word about how this war began. On Thursday, Netanyahu launched an illegal and unilateral surprise attack on Iran, bombing targets across the country and killing hundreds of people. Iran has responded with attacks of its own, which have killed dozens of people in Israel. Whatever you may think of the corrupt and authoritarian Iranian regime, Israel's attack clearly violated international law and the United Nations Charter. While every country has the right to defend itself, they do not have the right to launch so-called preemptive wars of this kind. But let's remember who Netanyahu is. He is a war criminal under indictment by the International Criminal Court for starving innocent people and killing civilians in Gaza. At this very moment, in Gaza, Israel continues to prevent the UN from delivering humanitarian aid. And just today, in Gaza, Israeli tanks fired into a crowd desperately trying to collect food, killing at least 59 people. So it should come as little surprise that Netanyahu ignored international law to start this war with Iran. But Netanyahu's decision to strike also directly contravened the express wishes of the United States, which was seeking a diplomatic resolution to the long-standing tensions around Iran's nuclear program.
That last part is not true. It is not true that, Trump was really trying to do diplomacy, bro, and then Netanyahu undermined him and undercut him and did this without the approval of the West. And I really think this is Bernie accidentally here letting Trump off the hook. Because absolutely Israel had the green light. We know they had the green light. That's why the U.S. removed our troops from our bases in the region a day before the strike. Because the green light was given, the plans were rolled out, and Trump okayed it. So the one thing I really don't like about this framing, he's right that he's being clear that Israel started this. Iran did not start. Israel started this. He's being clear about that. He's saying Netanyahu's violating international law yet again. He's doing it in Gaza. He's doing it here. But this is honestly too kind to Trump to assume he's been had by the people around. No, he's a warmonger, Bernie. He is a warmonger too. So do not let him off the hook. We need to hammer him into the ground over this illegal and offensive war in Iran that he greenlit, and now he's jumping into the deep end for it.
In recent months, the United States has held 5 rounds of negotiations with Iran to resolve these long-standing concerns. Let me repeat. In recent months, the United States has held 5 rounds of negotiations with Iran to resolve these long-standing concerns. A 6th round of talks was planned for Sunday, but Netanyahu chose instead to start this war.
I have to point out, guys, when Trump decided in his first term to murder Qasem Soleimani, a top Iranian commander who was on the battlefield fighting ISIS, when he decided to do that, the United States lured him with fake diplomacy talks, and he showed up and then Trump murdered him. Okay? There's a pattern here. The pattern is pretend like you're going to do diplomacy and then murder them. And so this has happened time and time again. So I don't understand why he's letting Trump off the hook and putting it all on Netanyahu. Yes, Netanyahu is to blame, but also Trump is directly to blame as well.
So let's be clear. Israel's attack was specifically designed to sabotage American diplomatic efforts. In fact, in its first round of strikes, Israel assassinated the man overseeing Iran's nuclear negotiating team. And let's also remember that U.S. intelligence has never indicated that Iran has made the decision to build a nuclear weapon. Just a few months ago, Trump's own Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, testified to Congress that, quote, the intelligence community continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, end of quote. But Netanyahu chose to attack, crippling diplomatic efforts and risking a full-blown regional war. He is now openly talking about regime change in Iran and threatening to kill the political leadership of that country without any thought to the chaos that might ensue. Let's also not forget that the current Islamic regime in Iran is itself the product of a Western-backed coup in 1953 that overthrew the democratically elected government of Iran and replaced it with a corrupt autocrat. The critical question now is whether the United States will get dragged into Netanyahu's war. In my view, that would be a disaster. The United States must not be involved with another Netanyahu war, not militarily or financially. The United States Constitution is crystal clear. There can be no offensive use of military force against Iran or any other country without an explicit authorization from Congress. No such authorization exists, and any U.S. involvement would therefore be illegal. The United States has already provided hundreds of billions of dollars to Israel over the last many decades. Last year alone, U.S. taxpayers provided more than $22 billion in military aid to Israel. Meanwhile, while providing massive aid to Israel, we have Americans sleeping out on the street, unable to afford health care or other basic necessities. Enough is enough. President Trump ran as a supposed peace candidate. In his inaugural address, he said, and I quote, "My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier. That's what I want to be, a peacemaker and a unifier," end quote. Very fine words. Trump should remember them today.
I get what he's trying to do here. I understand what he's trying to do here. But again, I don't know why everybody pretends like everything he said on the campaign trail and everything he did in office was, in the first term, was peaceful. He says both things all the time. Half the time he pretends he's anti-war. The other half the time he says we should kill the families of terrorists. And he ripped up the Iranian nuclear agreement. And he said Israel should strike Iran's nuclear facility. So I get the angle here. I get what he's trying to do. But I just don't think it's the best way to fight back, because it's just not true, right? Like, it's not true that, oh, he's always been a peace snake. Michael Tracy's been going on a tweet storm about this, showing all the times he said warmongering shit, and Tracy is limiting it to the campaign trail this previous race. So I don't want to be too hard, because he's on the right side in the sense that he's proposing the legislation he needs to propose, although everybody should really be talking about impeachment if we're being honest. But the message itself is a little muddled.
Supporting Netanyahu's war against Iran would be a catastrophic mistake. Instead of going to war, Trump must work with the international community to rein in Netanyahu and urgently push for a diplomatic solution. Netanyahu's illegal attack has made the world a more dangerous place. The United States must not be a part of this war. Thank you very much.
I mean, it's an okay comment. He's just got to go further. We're so past the we'll find a diplomatic... let's be serious, Bernie. Benjamin Netanyahu has to be arrested. He's a fucking war criminal. Trump has to be impeached and criminally convicted. Who are we kidding? Right? And I have a cat now here in the way. But what I don't understand is what a radicalizing moment this is, with Israel doing a genocide in Gaza live streamed in 4K, all the horrible stuff that they're doing on a daily basis that we can all see with our own two eyes. And still the talk around it is we should maybe cut off the funds and the weapons to them. And that's the best people, their voice in the conversation, when in reality, it's bro, you got to cut off the money, you got to cut off the weapons, you got to arrest all the war criminals, the Israeli generals, you got to arrest Netanyahu and Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, you got to sanction Israel, embargo Israel, make them the pariah state that they are, enforce a peace deal on, what are we even talking about here? And now they start another war, and the U.S. is all in helping that. That is absolutely, it's an illegal war, it's unconstitutional, no approval from Congress whatsoever. That is impeachment worthy of Trump. So maybe he's keeping his powder dry to eventually talk about impeachment. But I don't like the framing of, Trump was bamboozled. He wasn't. He was all in for this. He's fine with it. And then the other part of the conversation that needs to be had is, remember, Trump is in the Epstein files. Jeffrey Epstein was Mossad. Mossad is Israeli CIA. They have all the dirt in the world on this guy. And I have no doubt one of the reasons he's so gung-ho now for war is not only the positive coverage on Fox News over it, but also... he knows if I don't do it, remember, guys, Netanyahu also gave Trump a what was it? It was like a golden beeper. Immediately after, they did the beeper attack in Lebanon, which killed a lot of civilians and Hezbollah folks, right? And Trump reportedly said, this is sort of a disturbing gift, right? Like, it's almost like a threat, like a clear threat. And so mix all those things together, plus Trump's default warmongering perspective, as evidenced by everything he did in his first term, increasing drone strikes 400%, ripping up the Iran agreement, trying to coup Venezuela, bombing Syria multiple times, etc. And it's clear where these people are at. It's clear. So he's trying to lead the charge. But what I'm trying to do, y'all, and it's sort of like pissing into the wind because it feels like it's not working and I'm the only one making the case like I am. But we have to talk about this in real terms. We have to talk about this. This is immoral. This is illegal. This is unconstitutional. And the United States and Israel are the baddies here. Iran didn't have a nuke. They weren't building a nuke. Even if they were building a nuke, they weren't about to launch it against Israel or the U.S. They would only have a nuke for deterrence. And we're over here pretending like they have a nuke, which they don't, and that if they have it, they're going to use it, which is not true, right? It's Iraq all over again, except worse. For Iraq, you had 2 years of propaganda build up from George W. Bush and Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld, and they would just lie about how, oh my God, Iraq is tied to 9/11 and they're going to attack us with their WMD, and they would do all that stuff, all lies. But it was 2 years of propaganda that convinced the American people, like, all right, I guess we gotta do this. This is just like the snap of a finger. You know, hey, the country that's live streaming a genocide is also starting another war. There is no ambiguity. There is no gray area about what's going on here, and everybody needs to talk about it. And by the way, my criticisms of this thing aside from Bernie, think about what the so-called right-wing anti-war people are saying. Sir, I think strategically this is not right, and I think the people around you are giving you bad advice, but I love Trump, and I think his heart's in the right place, and I think he actually wants peace. That's literally what Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon were saying the other day. And it's like, you think this chicken shit argument is going to fucking win anything? When you got Mark Levin out there screaming at the top of his lungs for the war and going after Tucker Carlson and calling him Chatsworth Catarlson and saying, you've abandoned MAGA, you're anti-MAGA. Like, and only one Republican politician has signed on to try to stop this war. That's Thomas Massie. Like, this is the worst case scenario. This is the worst case scenario right now. According to one poll, 16% of the country wants war with Iran. Just 16%. But there's only like 5% of the politicians in the country are fighting back against this. Like, shouldn't it be about 85% if our government was actually representative? But it's not. And so, guys, full speed ahead. Do not fucking pussyfoot around the resistance here. We got to be all in on this resistance. This is a fucking catastrophe. This is a nightmare. Iran is even a bigger country than Iraq. 90 million people versus 25 million people. They're a more sophisticated government with more sophisticated weapons, too. Like, this would be a catastrophe that the U.S. might never fucking recover from. We might never recover from this. We've already pissed off the world with our fucking trade war. Now we're going to do another illegal and offensive war against a country that didn't attack us. You think people are not going to eventually run away from the dollar at 100 miles an hour and say, this is a rogue state and they're fucking psychotic. We don't want to work with them anymore. This is the trajectory that we're on. So look, overall, I'm glad Bernie released a statement, at least going after Netanyahu, but you also got to go after Trump. It's sort of inexcusable not to go after Trump. And I'm glad he's pushing that legislation, but we got to go even further. In the House, they should start bringing up impeachment articles fucking immediately. Immediately, bro. Immediately. So we shall see, but he did go after Netanyahu pretty aggressively here, and I hope everybody in the country is waking up to the reality of the situation, and I hope our politicians get fucking shamed into being against this and trying to block it. That's what I hope. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.